All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. And my name is Kevin Vincent, and I am the senior contributing editor to Mining Life and Exploration News. Welcome to the ninth and final presentation of the Mining the Abitibi Global Virtual Conference. Now, we've had people pop in and out of this conference over the past 48 hours now from all over the world. So there is an enormous amount of interest in the Abitibi, sorry, let me pronounce that correctly, the Abitibi Greenstone Belt, which has been host, as we all know, to some of the most historic mines on the planet for the past 120 years or so. So with that, we're going to share with you some information this afternoon about another exciting project. Full disclosure, I am a shareholder in Galleon Gold, so I want to make sure that people understand that. And that's the first time I've actually had to make that disclosure in anything. But having said all of that, this afternoon, our final speaker today is none other than R. David Russell, the president and CEO of Galleon Gold, who is sitting on a project here in the Timmins Porcupine Camp that has a lot of people pretty excited, not the least of which is David and some of his significant partners and investors who are taking a look at this particular project. So David, welcome to Mining the Abitibi. Welcome to our virtual conference, and the floor is yours, sir.
Well, thank you very much, Kevin. It's just a pleasure to be here and talk to you again. And I'm glad you're a shareholder. Obviously, I am a shareholder and believe in my projects. And the only thing I could say is you saved the best for last. Thank you.
You know what, Mark? Somebody was going to argue with me. I wanted to put that out there, but I'll let you take the credit for that particular statement.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. Well, let's start with West Cache. West Cache is just located outside of Timmins. It's a short little drive, take you about 10, 15 minutes to get there, right along Highway 101. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Is more of an update on what we've been doing with the project, how we're advancing it. I've got to go through the disclaimer. You can memorize that as we go. But the main key is located 13 kilometers west of Timmins, right along Highway 101. And we're butted against really Pan American Silver's West Mine. We're on the same type of structures that come out of Timmins and head to the southwest area. Now, what we're doing right now is we're working on a 43-101 that'll be out shortly, followed by a PEA, Preliminary Economic Assessment. But where did we start? We started about a year and a half ago with 1,079,000 ounces, more in a global resource base. You can see the indicated and inferred. Our main goal was to infill this area. And in doing so, we started with a drill hole database of about 325 core holes. Now we've added 213 infill holes in between known mineralization for a total of 46,000 meters. Now, looking at that, we've hit the same mineralization they had before. We've just expanded on it, and we've hit vein 9. Further to the south, there's another structure, a little bit different mineralogy there, but it hosts a lot of gold. So zone 9 is what we'll be talking about also. We've commenced baseline studies, getting prepared to finish the surveying, to go to lease on the property for permits, and then an underground ramp design to do some test mining and bulk mining. One other thing I'll mention, we have a project in southern Idaho called the Neil Project, and we're not going to really talk about that today. If you'd like to ask some questions at the end, we can answer those. But mainly, our flagship is West Cache in Timmins. Now, the location, a little more to actually look at it, see where it is, roughly about a 2-hour air flight northwest of Toronto. And the key is being close. We're bisected by Highway 101. We have water, power, gas lines, everything through there, including access. We're not, a moose pasture where we've got to bring in infrastructure. It's there. We've got the airports. We've got a minely friendly environment. We've got a skilled workforce. That's very, very important when you're starting up a project. We've got Pan American Silver again, right to the west of us or southwest of us. And this is what's called the Lakeshore West Mine. They're still in full production there. Been there for many years. It was built by Tony McCooch at that time when he was operating Lakeshore, which now is operated by Pan American Silver, and he's off to running in Kirkland Lake. Now, 14 kilometers west, we have the Newmont operations, the Hollinger, McIntyre mines, Dome mines, that sort of thing. And we do have an MOU with the First Nations communities. That's the Flying Post and Metagami. Both of those great working partners on this project. Now, where did we come from? Well, years ago, we'll talk 2002 through 2010, I was involved in building the Glimmer, which became Black Fox Mine. We rebuilt the stock mill. This is way over on the east side, about 70 kilometers from the Timmins area there. Right, it's right along the highway also. We ended up with several million ounces of gold, and that was some 10, 12 years ago. That's still in production today with McEwen Mining. And then you've got the Taylor Mine, you've got Aquarius, Hoyle Pond, Bell Creek, that's in full operation. That's part of the Pan American Silver Lakeshore Mine there. Then you've got Hoyle Pond, Pamour, and you've got the Dome Mines right next to McIntyre and Hollinger. They're important because geologically it's very, very similar to what we have with the purple outline here. Now we color coded everything where if you're over 1 million ounces, you're purple. And we're red right now. We're saying, okay, 750 to 1 million. Be disappointed, say, in the next month or so if we don't tell you as our little red mark turn purple. So we sure have a lot of interest, I think, as far as structural trend, gold deposition, that sort of thing. So we should have a multi-million ounce project here as we go. Now, the actual footprint on this slide is our land package, about 3,500 hectares within the package here. The yellow would indicate complete patents, which we bought from the Dwyer family about a year ago or so. And then where we're drilling right now, the West Cache gold zones right in here. This is where the first 1,079,000 ounces is, and just in this halo area here. And you can see our drill rig, our core, and that sort of thing on the property. Now, when we look at it, we say, okay, what's the geological model? Well, this is more of an isometric look. You have the south limb. That's where we started with drilling here. There's also the north limb. Now, what's the difference? Well, they both host gold. There just happened to be more drilling on the south limb, so that's what we took on. We do have the south limb on our property, the north limb, I mean, and we've got drill holes that say there's gold there. We'll take that on at a later date, but right now we're infilling this area here. When you describe it as a mesothermal lode gold deposit system in the Abitibi Greenstone Belt. And having the name Abitibi really tells a lot within the system. This runs for, I don't know, 200-300 kilometers, the actual system, but we're right in the core of it here. And very similar to the Hollinger and McIntyre mines, which were about 30 million ounces within that area of production, and it's still in production today with Newmont. Now, it's characterized by pyrite, chalcopyrite, quartz tourmaline veins, which is sheared up quartz, feldspar. And what we see is free gold. We see pyrite, gold electrum. We see some chalco, not much. And we see a little bit of sphalerite overprint on it. These structures, when you look at the dip, about 60 to 80 degree dip, and we're looking at a strike of roughly about 2,000 meters right now by about 500, 750 meters wide. Now, the structures will run anywhere from 1 meter to 18 meters wide. So some of these are pretty wide structures, the average being about 3.5 meters. Now, this slide says, okay, where's the drilling? Okay, we're going to define it as the East Pit extension, the East Pit itself, the Gap, the West Pit, and Zone 9, and then West Deep. They're all actual semi-deposits within deposits. What we're looking at is an open pit with the East Pit extension, the Gap, and the West Pit area. What we've done is put a majority of drilling in to offset other drilling. Again, we have, well over 200 of our own holes based upon 300 holes that were infill drilled, but these are just our holes here. Structure 9 sitting in here. And stay tuned for the South Zone. We do have drilling within that area that says, if you go further south, do you have lookalike structures that we hit number 9 or the main system? The answer is yes. Okay, this is a 3D view looking southeast on this. So the East Pit extension, you look and say, okay, we modeled a small pit here. There's drilling in between. The next schematic that we show, say, at another presentation, will show these pits connecting between the East Pit extension. The Gap area was thought to be offset by faulting. It's not. It's got some diabase within it, but the gold system is sitting there. So we'll most likely bring the pit across here over to the West Pit area. And then you get into what's called Zone 9. Now, is Zone 9 an open pit? Stay tuned. We're still working on the model on that. And then we've got the South Pit drilling, the South Zone area drilling in this area. Now, what have we so far? Well, let's look at the East Pit. Okay, early on in the drilling, you can see a meter, 1.5, 8 meters, 9 meters. and you see 3 grams, 2 grams, 1 gram. Then all of a sudden you see a spike of 7 grams, 5 grams, and on down 13 meters at 1.69, 1.5 at 8, all over the map. Well, that's good, because if you have spikes within it, that helps raise the overall grade for a pit area. And what are we looking for? Anywhere from a gram to 3-4 gram average in there. If I ended up with a 3 gram pit, I'd be ecstatic. East pit, middle program here, 1.5, 0.7, 1.3 meters, and you see 9 grams, 5 grams. A lot of higher grade spikes within this area here. That says we're going to have a pretty good, robust pit within that area here. And then here's the East Pit extension, same thing, 8 grams, 1 gram, 2, on down here, 6 grams. Everything points to you have an open pit here that is going to be economic. Now let's look at the West Pit area, one step further. And all of a sudden, you don't see so much low grade. You see a lot of higher grade, 10 grams, 18 grams, 1, 2, 5, 9, 31, all the way down. And you go, holy cow, that is really going to bring the pit grade on up on the West Pit area. One thing I'll point out is the number 30 hole here, number 42. This is the, what we'd say, the discovery hole of finding vein structure number 9. So we actually just lumped it in to show you that, okay, some of the other grades are pretty darn good. This is really good and has great widths to it, 9.7 meters at 7 grams, 10.7 meters at 7 grams here. So anyway, that's the beginning of zone number 9 that's just tailed off to the south of the west zone. That's important because we have what's called the West Deep. Now this slide here shows the east area here. I call this the bubble map. The bubble map shows grades, 30 grams to 893 grams, 15 to 30, and that's so on. You can see a lot of gold within the pit areas here. Then all of a sudden you see number 9 zone. There's a gap in here. There is some gold there. But right on number 9 here, you see, okay, well, they got some pretty good grades here, 10 to 15 grams, 15 grams, and then you'll get a spike up to a 30 gram area here. And then you go on down and there's a big gap here. This gap is about 500 meters. We have not got that drilled yet. We've got to continue drilling on down dip. That might be better served to drill it from underground once we take a ramp system underground and develop it on, say, the 200 meter level, the 300, the 400, and then work our way down. Some of these hits down here are very high grade, but it's very deep. So it's very hard to actually pinpoint a drill hole that's going to come from the surface and you bring it down 15 to 1800 meters and have it hit a target. It's a little bit difficult. It can be done, but we'd be better served doing that as we develop the gap area in between. So anyway, you can see the assays on this side, the original 20-30, 42 that I showed you before. 7 grams, 8 grams, then hole 80, 8.25 grams across 9 meters, 8.6 at 10, 9.4 at 10. All this is pinpointing and saying, gee whiz, we've got a great project here. Now, we'll show this again a little bit, but this time I'm going to show you the core. Okay, this would be 20-75. You've got 6.6 grams. Notice the banding of the pyrite and the gold that's sitting in here. That's very important because you see 20, and then down here you see 10. That was drilled in 2020. This is drilled in 2010. The exact same rings, only we're down around 732 meters in depth in this area here, and it looks very similar. Now that's where the geologist actually projected it up dip and said, okay, if we drill it right below the surface, we should hit it. And sure enough, we did. So I've got to hand it, we've got some very, very good geologists on site that do very good work. Now this slide here, this is a plan view. So what we said is, okay, what are we looking for? Number 1 is a rake in the ore chute on number 9. Okay, and if you actually draw a big circle around here, it shows this thing is dipping to the north, but also to the west. It's about a 65, 75 degree dip. And what we're showing here is some of the holes, 13 meters of 8 grams, 10 meters of 7, 15 meters of 6 grams. But there's 2 important things. These are very good infill holes, but they're also metallurgical holes that we've drilled. And we had to do complete new studies on this. You know, can we recover the gold out of this? The answer was, with SGS Labs, yes, we can. Anywhere from 94 to 96% recovery of cyanide, crushing, grinding, cyanide leaching, you know, on the system. But it comes right below the glacial sand and gravel interface, and we hit it right up on the top right here. And you notice these are a little further to the east. And then as you go down dip, they're further to the west. So that's called a rake dip within the ore chute. Okay, now we're going to look at it, looking at a section, 50-meter sections here. And you can see very consistent. We keep hitting the structure on down. 3.37 grams, 8 grams, 7 grams, 8 grams. Everything's very consistent on the structure as we go down dip. So we stepped a little further to the east, did the same thing. You see hole 20-75, we got 10.87 grams here. You've got a little bit low grade there, a little bit low grade, and then all of a sudden things start picking up down dip on these structures here. But it's not like a duck chute, but geologically they can predict when they're going to hit that vein structure itself. And you notice right up below the interface of the glacial alluvium here, there's 11.25 grams, another one at 15.84 grams across here. So pretty good widths, good grades of ore. Okay, what got us started on that? Well, it was the original drilling that Explorer did, and we merged with Explorer and came up with Galleon Gold and the West Cache project. And what we did is we looked at the data they had drilled. They'd done a great job drilling deeper. Here's 10-09, 21, 23. You've got 11 meters, 5 meters, 4 meters, 11 meters. And you look at the grades, 5 grams, 8 grams, 39. I looked at that and said, okay, we've got a winner here. We've just got to infill drill it. We have to be able to model the data, be able to permit this project, take it underground, re-drill it on a close space center, and start mining. So anyway, what we did is said, okay, where should we start first? Well, we projected the 2010, 11, and 12 holes up dip, and we hit those areas. And you see this core is almost the same as the core I showed you before. This is 20-30, okay, and you see the banding on the pyrite, chalcopyrite, and some of the sphalerite. You see the same thing in 10-30. Again, that's 2010 here. You ended up with 9.21 grams. So, you know, it is visual underground. We should be able to see it very easily. Obviously, drilling tells the story, and the assaying does, but visually, when you're underground, it means a lot when you can see contact points and you can actually see mineralization. Now, when we went through the recovery process with the metallurgical study, this was SGS Labs, you know, I was on pins and needles. Okay, we had a great study on the main ore body, and it's 94 to 96% recovery with crushed grind, cyanide leach, some gravity circuits if you'd like those in there. So I was on pins and needles on number 9. Will it recover? Well, these are the studies right here. We have low grade, mid grade, and high grade. So we tried not to bias the samples. We just picked the core that would be lower grade and say, what can we get out of it? And what it shows right here is you can get anywhere from 90 to 95% recovery on low grade. Same thing, up to 95, 96% recovery on the mid grade. Same thing on the high grade here. Now, at one point you see something tail off over here. What that means is you probably overground the ore and slimed it. So what it says, you have to have a specific grinding index on your ores, a recovery rate that's within relation to what's normal in the camp. So what I can say is we've got normal ore, whole ore cyanization is probably the way to go on that end of it. But before we can start the actual milling process, we've got to go through all the environmental studies and that sort of thing on what type of mill, what type of tailings ponds, what kind of liners, that sort of thing that we're going to actually use within this project. Now, you might ask, where's the free gold? Well, here it is. You can see it. Not a lot of free gold here and there. Most of it's gold electrum on the pyrite that is very visible under a microscope. This was actually blown up under a microscope here. But it's pretty. It's very, very yellow. Okay, I mentioned sphalerite in here. Sphalerite is a zinc mineral, but it's more of an indicator. It came up the same plumbing system in this area here. So you'll see a little overprint and it looks more little reddish tinge, you know, as you're looking at it. It doesn't say whether it's good gold or bad gold. It says it came up the same system, but it really identifies the ore chute within the area. Same thing over here. Okay, this is the south zone area. This is a zone we haven't really talked about to the market much, but it does exist. You see the pyrites there. We don't see as much sphalerite, but they still have all the same type of banding. So, and the mineral is looking pretty good within the drill core itself. So stay tuned for assays when they come out of the lab. Now, what we're looking at here is more of a summary look at where's our drill holes we put in, the over 200 drill core holes here. This was the original fabric model for the 1,079,000 ounces. So we've infilled within these areas. We've hit the number 9 zone in the west deep zone area here, and the south zone would be over on the left side over here. So again, we have the West Deep, we've got the number 9 zone, then we have the West Pit, the Gap, East Pit, and East Pit extension. Now, these 4 areas will be one mega pit within this area as we develop it. So where are we on our survey? Number 1, on the land survey, we're getting close to being done. We should be done in the next month to month and a half, maybe 2 on the outside. It's one of the more complex surveys because we've got highways, gas lines, power lines, things like that, and other areas to look at. The permitting activities, baseline studies for floral and fauna, water hydrology, that sort of thing. We've got to develop a closure plan, which we're working on, and then the underground ramp design that goes with it. Then there's a bulk sample and then a closure plan for that bulk sample along with it. Now, where does all this information? It feeds into a PEA study, preliminary economic assessment. That'll be due out probably in August sometime, more toward the end of it. But in between, we will turn out very shortly a new an NI 43, a National Instrument 43101, that actually states what the resource base will be. So stay tuned in the next few weeks. You'll see that document come out, followed by the PEA study. And we'll have ongoing exploration programs. We'll have consultations with the First Nations. And I mentioned before, they're the Flying Post and Metallurgical that we've dealt with, and they're great partners. We'll continue the baseline studies, and then we'll go on to what's called pre-feasibility studies. Now, the bulk sampling, underground development, that'll feed into the pre-feasibility study, while we finish up all the exploration and the closure plans that will feed into a full-scale project. Now, what's a full-scale project? It could be anywhere from, let's say, a project that produces or a throughput of 2,500 to 3,500 tons per day, open pit grades of 2.5 to 3.5 grams, underground grades of 5 grams or higher, maybe towards 7 grams, that sort of thing, and potentially a production profile. Kind of stepping out a little bit here, but it could be 80,000 to 100, maybe 120,000 ounces per year. It just depends on how big the project will be, what will come from the open pit and underground. But all our studies will define that in the PEA study and then go on to pre-feasibility studies that will really lay that out. So reasons to invest. Okay, number 1 is location, location, location. We're on the main trend, the Destor Porcupine, just outside of Timmins. You're talking an 80 to 120,000 ounce production out of the camp. And we've got probably one of the next undeveloped project. Now, keep in mind, on our property, there's been no mines there before because of the glacial cover. And we're just taking it forward for the first step to potentially bring a mine into production. 46,000 meters is what we did in the last, so we'll say 9-12 months that we completed. We're well into the PEA study. And the financial support, where does it come from? Well, we've got a lot of great shareholders. One of them, Eric Sprott. He came up in with me early on within our Idaho project. And then when I showed him all those high-grade assays on the Explorer hit drill, he said, "Okay, I'm in, Dave. How much can I come in for?" So we worked it out, and he's got 23% now. And we've also got a proven experienced management team, not only geologically, but permitting, and people that are from Timmins that know their way around the mining business, know their way around the ministry, the permitting end of it, and they know how to do it right and get this project off the ground. So we've got a great team to work with, and I think it's a great investment to come in for Galleon Gold. Again, at GO.V on the exchange. So with that, please take a look at it, take a look at our website, and thank you for listening today. And I'd like to thank Kevin for having me today and supporting our company.
Well, David, thank you for supporting the virtual conference here, Mining the Abitibi. And so I've got a couple of questions that kind of pop into mind. Certainly anybody that's following the company is keenly interested in knowing if you've narrowed down so far when you expect that PEA to be able to be shared with the market.
I think we've narrowed it down to probably mid to late August. We wanted it earlier, but I tell you what's happening is exploration exploded in Canada, especially in the Timmins camp. The labs got flooded. And what we looked at is, we've got 213 core holes and just flooded them with 100% of all cores assayed within what we've done. So we got a bit behind on assaying, especially on the east extension area and structure 9 and number 10 on the south area. So what we're going to do first is we'll pay attention for the next couple of weeks. We should be turning out, and I'll put a preface out to the market when the 43101 with the resource-based numbers. So we started with 1,079,000 ounces. We'll tell you what the new infield number is. Then we'll move on to finalize the PEA, and that the finalization will be the end of June, July, and early August. Then we should have the final document out.
As you can imagine, I've been paying particularly close attention to, I think, the language that you use. Earlier in your presentation, for the first time in my recollection, you made reference to several million, as opposed to, you've always been very cautious. So are you getting the sense that, as you inch toward the 43-101 and the PEA, that this is a little beyond your conservative posture, if you will, up until now?
Yeah, I think I try to be conservative, and like I said, we started with 1,079,000. So my expectation is it's north of that. Maybe you don't hit the 1.5 million or 2 million mark, but what I want to tell the investors and listeners is this is a very large project. Okay, and if you extrapolate, we're only drilling, say, 2,000 meters on a 6-kilometer section of ground that we own. This structure has not been proved that it's cut off on strike and dip. So when somebody says we're open on strike and we're open on dip, we're literally open on strike and dip here. So if you can, in the 2,000 meters, put 1 million ounces or 1.25 million, anybody can actually do the extrapolation of the numbers and say, this is probably 1.5 million, 2.5 million, type of deposit. So we have the potential here to add ounces, just advanced programs, drilling, feasibility work, and you're going to add ounces to the books here.
Well, I know that you've been, like I said, you've been very conservative, and you wouldn't use those numbers loosely. You wouldn't just throw those out for, to tease people, so to speak. So it's very exciting. And, Galleon is one of so many companies that we've heard from today that have put together, just such a very comprehensive presentation about what's going on. This whole region, historically, like you said, your experience with Black Fox and your understanding of the geology of this part of the mining world is not something that just popped up yesterday. So, David, thank you so much for what you shared with us today, and those of you from around the world who have joined us. So, David, we hope to see you again very, very soon, and know that Mining Life is very keenly interested in your project, because it's right here in the heart of everything that we do.
Well, thank you again, Kevin, and appreciate all your great comments, and for having us on your virtual talk today.
Awesome.